Many, many thanks for being here. We know this is a very hot day, and Budapest is a beautiful city, so there are many other things to be doing right now. But we think we all think it's very important to be here and try to have a conversation, a community space in which we can discuss issues about our association. So we'll proceed first with the agenda. This is the agenda. 12, 13 items. Some of them are very quick, others are not so quick, so we will try to move as reasonably as possible. We have some technical challenges, let me tell you, because we have Zoom and WhatsApp and electronic voting and I don't know how many things, so we'll see how we manage, but we'll try. So the first item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda itself. So if somebody can put up a motion for that, we usually proceed with somebody putting up the motion, and then we say yeah or no or abstain. And then we will have some online voting. You can see there items 3, 7, and 8. As we will tell you very soon, there is a new issue that we recently learned that we need half of the vote plus 1 in order for our decisions to be effective. So we want to do them as quickly as possible, because then we need to count the vote, and then we need to know if we need to do a second vote in order to reach the majority. So we will ask you to be, you should have received the doodle, the message from the doodle to vote. If you want to start voting on things you know you want to vote, you can do it, but you can wait until we present them, and that's fine. I think we will close our voting for this first counting around 4:05, something like that. So we have at least 20 minutes to do the counting, and if needed, a second vote. So this is the agenda. You can see it's pretty much the usual stuff. We have the President's report, the Treasurer's report, the approval and exculpation of the ISCHE, election of 2 new ISCHE members, discussion and approval of a new standing working group. Then we do the awards, and then a very important issue is start having a conversation. We don't expect to reach any solution today, but start presenting some ideas about our next steps for the annual conference, and then the presentation of the next venue, which is going to be Natal in Brazil. So, anybody wants to put up the motion for approval? Antonio Canales, somebody seconds him. Ines Felix. So, do we approve the agenda for today's meeting? Aye. Okay, thank you very much. Now we move we move to the approval of the General Assembly minutes from last year. You should have read it, or you could read them very quickly, but we hope you read them already. So the same procedure. Somebody put up a motion for the approval of last year's minutes. Jacques Braster and Diana Vidal seconds the motion. Is it approved? Are they approved? Yes. Thank you very much. So now we move on to the third issue. And the third issue is actually a confirmation of last year's vote. And what we learned while we were doing, ISCHE is inscribed as a German charity with the German authorities. And we usually follow this rule, which is here. Let me move maybe the Zoom up, in which we elect our candidates with the candidates that receive the most votes of the valid votes. And this is the one we usually followed. But we learned that there is another rule in our constitution, of which we didn't thought that really counted for the election to the ISCHE, which says that motions voted on by the General Assembly shall be carried by a majority of the valid votes cast. So it happened, a bit of a shame, that we went to register our authorities, and this takes a long way, and we received news 1 month ago, June 5th, this is the German time in law, that it says that actually the 5/5 overrules the other one, so we need to cast a new vote for Lisa. What we ask you to do is please follow the doodle, confirm last year's vote. This is not a new vote, but it's the last year's vote. So that's why this year we have to be much more careful about reaching the majority of the vote and not just most votes. And we also have a conversation going about changing our constitution and making it more streamlined and consistent, because we are discovering all these loops and holes through which we acted. Lisa is already acting as our treasurer, and she will have her position for the 3 years that are usual. So after 2 years from today, she will step down, either go for re-election, but we maintain our internal time. But in terms of the German authorities, she will be officially elected as of today. So please cast your vote. Thank you very much for your patience, and I promise we will try to streamline our constitution, but I cannot promise we will solve everything, but we will try. So I'll start with the President's report. And first, as always, I would like to start acknowledging and thank you the work and trust of our members for the continued support of ISCHE and that of the members of the Executive Committee, who have been very generous with their time, efforts, and reflections. You have a full version of the report in the package, so I will not read everything. I will just focus on some things I want to share today. Also, I would like to especially recognize the work done by the local organizing committee in Budapest, in particular Beatrix Vince and Lajos Somocsvári. I don't know if I'm pronouncing correctly. The LOC has held on. You know, this has not been a very easy year for Eastern Europe and for the world. We had pandemic, there is high inflation in Hungary, the war in Ukraine, political pressures, and I think they have done a wonderful job. They have done it unselfishly, as the Hungarian Association is not able to receive any income. We usually share if there are the profits, if there are any. This year you will see there are not any, but if there were to be profits, we usually split it and hope to leave something to the National Association, but the Hungarian Association this year is not able to receive money, so we remain indebted to your largesse and hope that our presence here will produce synergies and projects that will nurture your own endeavors. So some specific points about the state of ISCHE and future developments, although future developments will come later. So ISCHE 2023, you see we have 444 participants. We have a large participation of early career researchers. As far as we know, and we are trying to collect numbers, and this has been not that easy because this usually stay with the local committees, and then organizing a historical series, paradoxically for us, is not that easy. But if you see, for example, I put here some numbers from Milan. We had 532 participants in Milan, 153 were ECRs, 28%. This year we have a much bigger turnout, a lower turnout, 25% less or 20% less than last year, but 37% of ECR participation. So this is, I think, very good news for us. Financially, it is a bit of a challenge. Lisa will tell you later. But I think we still, I mean, these years have been very extraordinary, we know. But if you compare last year with this year, we have almost 75% of the participants opting for coming to the conference on site, and 26% opting for the online conference. No? The online option has proven useful, and now we have ConfTool, and we can compare where are they coming from. Are they ECRs? So basically ECRs and colleagues who are in distant countries. For example, this year we have a large participation from China, at least larger than previous years, also from Brazil and Latin America, for whom traveling to Hungary was very expensive. ISCHE has been, and since its first conference in 1979, committed to becoming a truly international organization, and this continues to be one of its defining features and aspirations. As I said in the opening ceremony, this year's participants come from 46 countries located in all continents of the world, except for Antarctica, of course. But we might get there. We acknowledge that the country with which one is affiliated institutionally is not always, as is my case, a good marker for academic careers that are increasingly mobile and transnational, but still, for the time being, this is the best proxy we have about how we are doing in terms of our internationalism. In the past 2 years, and here there is another table I want to share, you can see, we know, again, these years have been quite extraordinary, but you can see changes in the provenance of our participants. So one can see that our association was born as mainly European. This is shifting, and it shifts according to the venue, according to the date, according to the economic situation. But if you look in Milan, 62% of the conference participants came from Western Europe, with a remarkable participation of Italian, Spanish, German, and Swiss colleagues. This year, this percentage fell to 45%, an increased participation of colleagues from Eastern Europe, Latin America, Asia, and, as I said in the opening comments, a significant growth in those coming from Australia. The participation from African colleagues is still very low, and this is something we have been discussing for a while and need to continue thinking about, and I hope that Brazil will also be a possibility to reach out to Italian colleagues, as we were discussing before in the corridor. Of course, these trends change all the time, but I think this little sample shows that the decision to rotate our venues or go to different places is a good one. The movements might not be easy on our pockets or comfortable for our cultural and political preferences or our academic calendars, but they are needed to hold this internationalism as one of our core principles. They'll help our community to remain deeply inter and transnational, and they enrich our intellectual life as a scholarly community. I am strongly convinced that we need to keep this in mind when we discuss the future of our annual conferences. Then we have the ISCHE advisory group. You have the full report. I will not go into there, but I think it is a very good news that the ISCHE participation is really growing. We have to thank especially Ian Grosvenor, Ines Felix, Karin Priam, Matti Kins, Angelo Van Gorp for their work, who have been working with summer schools, with ISCHE Tinkering Initiative. The Education and Pandemics Archive has also been very important. And more recently, what Matti is doing in relation to the ISCHE advisory group. They are developing an ISCHE strategy, and you will hear more about it soon. As you know, we conducted a survey, and this survey is the first one we conduct. I think it will be very interesting. For example, we are asking about transnational careers, just not where are you working now, but where have you worked before, where were you born. I think it will be interesting to what do you need from us. And one of the things that we know came out not only in the survey but also in the meetings they've been having is that they want more things between conferences and not just in the conferences. So I think this is a very good pressure to think of ourselves. What do we want to do? What do we want to offer as a community and organize as a community? So I think this has been building up for several years, and I think it's very good that we are seeing this trend. In relation to ISCHE management, so the conference and membership management, the online elections, well, as you know, we, thanks to decisions we took in the past, ISCHE is becoming more and more independent from external administrative support. In 2021, we implemented Angelo, you would have to mute. Gabriela, can you silence yourself? Or I think it's Gabriela, I don't know, sorry. So these are the technical challenges. So we have ConfTool now. It's an online conference system that made ISCHE self-reliant in terms of conference management and financial transactions. this has meant not only fewer overhead costs, but also being able to give more support to LOCs with limited engagement management infrastructures, as was the limited management infrastructure, as was the case of this year's conference. ConfTool also provides more transparent financial management, review procedures, and final decision-making on submissions. We can have more information on our annual conferences that help us make more informed decisions about its structure and budget. As it is our own platform, we continue improving it. I want to thank especially Angelika Wegscheider and Jenny Berger from our office in Berlin. Jenny is connected. Thank you, Jenny, who are the main pillars for the system to work. Another important information in relation to our management is we signed a new affiliation agreement with Taylor and Francis, ending our previous agreement that trusted the publisher with the management of our membership. We launched a membership campaign in late 2022, early 2023. You can see here the numbers. They are quite successful. We had a significant growth. Again, a very significant growth in terms of ECRs. We introduced some changes in our constitution and our bylaws, so we can manage some decision-making online. This is very important, and this was approved. This one, yes, it was approved by the German authorities. And after this incident, we want to set up, again, a line of work to streamline our constitution and bylaws to our current needs. And we will present this work, hopefully, next year in the next General Assembly. Very briefly, on the rest of the items, language policy, as you know, this was discussed in very deep ways. I would say we had a committee with the recommendation included leaning towards multilingualism while remaining flexible in its adaptation. And we have not taken an official position. In fact, I think ISCHE is multilingual. It's based in Germany, so the official language is German. Then we accept several languages, but we try always to privilege communication and understanding and trying to make this an important issue. No? If you want to be a community, we need to understand each other, and we need to find ways to understand each other. One of the decisions we took is to, in future conference, organize conceptual cafes or tertulias for those interested in issues of translation and interpretation, so we can analyze further reflections and actions. In terms of capacity building, we have the book series, Global Histories of Education, continues to thrive. We have published now 9 books. 2 more will be published this year. We want to thank the editorial board, coordinated now by Christian Idesen, and it includes Linda Chisholm, who is here, Eugenia Roldan, Klaus Dietrich, to whom ISCHE is grateful for their time and energy. We also have the first book award, which seeks to support young and emerging scholars in our field. We will soon hear about the winner of 2023 ISCHE First Book Award. The committee is chaired by Mark De Pepe and includes Simonetta Polenghi, Joachim Landal, Terziani Lucchese, and Michael Hevel. Again, this year we received 13 submissions, which were read and assessed rigorously, and this year's award is granted to Jill Vinandi, and you will soon learn more about her work. In relation to the Early Career Conference Paper Award, as usual, it's related to last year's submissions, again, an initiative that wants to support ECRs. This year's committee was presided by Simonetta Polenghi. This year it will be presided by the Hungarian colleagues, and included Ana Debe and Dario De Salvo. We received 3 submissions. The winner is Lucila da Silva, who is connected online, and we would like to see more submissions this year, so hopefully you will pass the word around to submit papers to ECRs. We are also continuing to provide financial, limited but heartfully felt financial support to the History of Education Doctoral Summer School in the form of travel grants to participants from low GDP countries. And I think this is one of the ECR's work pillars and a great opportunity for networking and connections that seem to to last. Finally, an important part of ISCHE's life has been channeled through the standing working groups, which have provided a venue for developing research programs and intellectual projects with some continuity. We have 6 standing working groups, 3 of which are ending this year, and we will vote on a new one. So by the end of this year, we will have 4 standing groups. And I think they are important ways in which we grow projects together. Last point, Education and Pandemics Archive. You can read the full report written by Karin Priam. This has been an initiative that we launched in 2020 related to gathering archives and trying to think, both I would say in the line of public history and trying to think of the experience, the historical experience we were going through, we are going through. At present, the archive consists of 217 entries, most of which are born digital sources that are already hosted or uploaded by the team to the Internet Archive. And I think what is unique is that it has a truly international scope. It has also been a way in which, a project in which many ECRs were engaged, and we have a student assistant based in Landau, who is also paid by ISCHE. We received generous support initially from the Stichting Pädagogika Historica, so also many thanks to all of them. Finally, I have said many thanks throughout the report, and for me this is not a formality. I think ISCHE would not be possible were it not for the generous work of lots of people. We are nothing if not by the support and company of others. So I would like to personally to mention in particular the 3 ISCHE members whose terms are ending. We will later give them some recognition, or I don't know, the plaques, the name plaques, I don't like it, but something that acknowledges, but is very small in relation to their generous contribution to our association. Karin Priam, who is our former president, has been standing as an ex officio ISCHE member this past year. She has been serving in the ISCHE for many, many years. Thank you, Karin, for all the work you have put in this institute, in this association. Beatrix Finche and Tony Canalis. You have all contributed greatly to the life of ISCHE and will be deeply missed at the executive committee. So with this, I close my report. Thank you very much for the patience, and we usually don't have comments, but if you want to comment later, we will open some comments in the final part. So now we move to the Treasurer's report. Lisa Rasmussen.
Hello, and I, as you know, have had the pleasure of working as a treasurer for the last year, and perhaps I will also become the treasurer for the next couple of years. For now, I will give you a few words on the financial side of the organization, first we'll go into the budget of 2022, and then I will also tell you a little bit about 2023. First, however, I'd like to thank Angelica and Jenny in the ISCHE office in Berlin, who are exceedingly competent in helping to keep order in the ISCHE finances and always ready to answer any questions that may arise. As this has been my first year working as a treasurer, I also have to thank Mark Overbach, the former treasurer, for a patient handing over of the tasks. But now about the budget of 2022. It's up here on the board, but also in the packet for the General Assembly you can access online. First, a correction. The final sum of the balance is 73,068 euros and not 73,495 euros. So that is a small correction. And nevertheless, 2022 turned out to be a healthy financial year for ISCHE, adding more than 20,000 euro to the savings. This despite the on-site conference cost in Milan was 14,000 higher than first anticipated, mainly because of unexpected VAT. That's a kind of tax you have to pay. But luckily, the income side turned out well, even though the estimates had been quite conservative. There were a good volume of on-site participants, as you already have heard, and the LOC with Simonetta Polenki did a really good job in finding local funding. Moreover, the local committee waived their share of the surplus, so thanks to the LOC in Milan 2022, ISCHE now have a good cushion in its finances. A few words about the programmatic expenses. The Pandemic Archive project was granted more money that is up here on the budget, but because it was only run through the bank in 2023, it does not appear here. This also goes for a few other smaller posts, and I think this is good to remember when we will look at the 2023 budgets in a few minutes. Another thing worth mentioning is that the amount set aside for the travel stipends for our ECRs, both for the ISCHE conference and for the summer schools, were not used to the full. With this comment, I will just raise your attention to the existence of this support, which has helped many ECRs to start their engagement with ISCHE. And then I think before voting for approval of the budget, you are of course free to ask any questions. And I'll try to answer them if you have any. I'll do that. And that looks a little bit different. Here you see the estimated budget for 2023. As the financial year, according to German law, runs from January to January, I have updated the budget we made in the beginning of the year with information available in early June. So what you see here is an adjusted, estimated budget, so to say, but importantly, not the final one. Several points are made, importantly, exactly from the latest update, I think. The biggest concern is, of course, the negative balance you see at the bottom, and most importantly, how this negative balance was not expected at the beginning of the year. Some of this is due to money spent or planned to be spent, or that was planned to be spent in 2022, but only got through the bank in 2023. So we might allow ourselves to bring it down to approximately 13,300 euro, but it is still in minus. Although lower than last year, the costs for the conference are relatively high, and this is because of the inflation, which has been extraordinarily harsh in Hungary, and also because of taxes we, like last year, could not avoid to pay. However, we should thank the LOC for working very, very hard on finding payable solutions, and also that we have been able to keep it within the first expected budget. The reason for the possibly negative balance, I would say, is due to the income, which is not as good as hoped for. Ironically, the reasons for the lower income are in some parts very positive, especially as it comes to the pattern of participation, as Ines has already talked about. The good outcome in terms of an increasing number of members talked about also shows in the budget post on individual memberships, although somewhat more discreetly. The membership is only 10 euros for ECRs and 25 for standard memberships. So behind the extra 1,300 euros on this post is actually quite a few new members, as you have already been told by Ines. For the income from the on-site and online conference, you see it is significantly lower than expected. The number of participants did decrease a little, as you were already informed about, and we did experience some last-minute withdrawals, which of course impacts the income. However, the lower income is mainly due to the positive fact that we have had more participants enrolled as members, more ECRs, and more early birds enrollments. So in many ways, a pattern of engaged and dedicated participation. But the only implication of this is for the budget, because being a member, being an ECR, and making sure to enroll early give you access to quite a lower fee. So with this, the sum on income from fees are significantly smaller than expected. It is also worth mentioning that the LOC did a great job in general and also worked hard to find extra financial support for the conference. And they did find money, but however, as many of us know, the structure and availability of funding is very country-specific and locally dependent, and things this year has not made it easier with the excessively high inflation in Hungary. Nevertheless, to end on a good note, the year is not over yet. We do what is in our power in the EC to get the ends together, and things may change to the better. Also, the negative balance we might end up with for 2023 do not exceed the surplus of 2022. And with the estimates up here, there would still be around 50,000 euros plus left in the savings. So that's what I had to say about the budget.
So we realized that it is very fast, but if you have concerns or questions, we are happy to discuss them extensively whenever you need. So we move now to the approval of the 2022 budget and exculpation of the ISCHE for the year 2022. Who wants to put up a motion for that? Noah Sobi and Pablo Toro seconds it. So do you approve the budget and exculpate the ISCHE for this year, the past year? Yes, motion approved. Thank you very much. So now we have the election of the ISCHE members, which actually I am told by Jenny that is already closed because I tried to vote when I had a chance. Did everybody vote or not yet? If no, so we need to reopen it. I'm sorry. This is part of so I will tell her to reopen it. We will have to cast our vote again for this item, which is item 7. And you, all of us, because what she's telling me, if I reopen it, everyone needs to vote again. Sorry for that. We are learning. No, not Lisa. Lisa is already done. But then this election and the next one, and I told her it's awkward that we are voting before we present the candidates, but with the same, but it's not open yet. If you want to check, Karin, but in the meantime, let me say we have two, as I said, Tony Canales and Beatrix Vince are ending their terms at the ISCHE, and so we have two positions open. We have received two candidates. I invite the two candidates, which are Luis Grosso Correa and Lajos Somochvari, to come to the front and present themselves. We usually ask you to introduce yourself very quickly, and we'll proceed to the vote, if the planets align. Yes, or if you...
5 minutes? 2 minutes? Okay, good afternoon. Dear ISCHE President, dear ISCHE members, dear ISCHE 45 delegates, I'm not used to talk about me, but this is the moment. I am honored to speak to the General Assembly in my capacity as a candidate for one of the two vacant positions on the Executive Committee of this brilliant scientific community, as Merck Depap put it some years ago. This is my 11th ISCHE conferences that I have attended since 2006 in Umeå, Sweden. I have participated in Newark, in the conferences held in Newark, Geneva, London, Istanbul, Buenos Aires, Berlin, Porto, Örebro, or online, Milan, and now Budapest. Okay, just 2 minutes in essay set. Okay, I was prepared for 5 with 3 pages speech, but who cares? So it's yes, I gave so I embody this candidature to the ISCHE's Executive Committee vacant position due to my condition of historian of education and also my significant experience as chair of local organizing committee of the Porto Conference, as editor of Pedagogic Historic, a special issue devoted to spaces and places of education, and co-convener of the standing working group Le Tout Puissant and Pure du Milieu, Histories of Secondary Education. However, here and now I have to say and underline it, the most significant gest to make this candidature effective was given not by me, but by the National Associations of History of Education supporting it. I am honored that 8 national associations or committees from Argentina, Brazil, Portugal, Spain, Italy, Greece, and Hungary have supported my candidacy. The national associations or committees play a relevant role in strengthening the field of history of education in different parts of the world, as anyone in this room could bear witness. In my witness, I think the communication between ISCHE and the national associations should be strengthened and in order to make more inclusive their participation. Finally, I think it's also one of the guidelines of my candidacy has to do with the need to foster the policies regarding the future of this brilliant international community by providing students and early career scholars academic visibility, intergenerational sustainability, and scientific robustness through different solutions in different parts of the world, but always with the ISCHE support. Muchas gracias. Grazie mille. Efkaristo poli. Nagion sipeken tusaniuk. Merci beaucoup. Vielen Dank. Thank you very much. Muito obrigado.
Just a short warning, you would have received a new link, but it will be open from 4:15, so 2 more minutes till 4:25. So we will have 10 minutes for these votes. But as soon as you get it, maybe let's hurry up. Everybody has to vote again. So it's a new, if you already voted, not on Lisa, but yeah, on these two. Okay, yes.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
So, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, as you hear, and I try to, yeah, now it's better. So, as you hear, my name is Lajos Somogyvári, and first of all, I have to say that Louis, the name in Hungarian is Lajos. So now there are 2 Louis, 2 candidates for the 2 positions. As I stand here, I remember 4 years ago, a hot July day in Porto, when we started our standing working group with colleagues and now friends from Brazil, Marissa, and Teres from Canada. And I was very grateful and have been very grateful to this opportunity. And I wanted to give it back to this community because I think 2 of our main values of this association is openness and diversity. Diversity in means of racial, ethnic, gender issues, with various social cultural backgrounds, languages, and beliefs. As you know, some of you may know, my research interest belongs to the socialist education and socialist pedagogy. And by doing this, I always have to translate not just literally, but symbolically our stories. And the basic of this understanding is, I think, the discussion and dialogue. And the ISCHE conferences gives a unique and an opportunity to such a dialogues. And I would like to contribute to these dialogues and to these collaborations. Thank you very much.
So, thank you very much. And we now can vote. I'm seeing that the link is already open. So if you can, you have to cast 1 vote for each. Well, while you vote, I may use this time to give this small appreciation mementos to the EC members who are finishing their term. They don't seem to be ready, but Beatrix, you are ready? So we can already give this memory in appreciation of all your work. Thank you very much, Beatrix, wonderful host, lots of work, lots of patience, also with the ISCHE EC. Thank you very much. Tony, I don't know if you're ready or not. Did you vote already? Okay, so. No, 2. You have to vote 1 time, yes, no, abstain for Luis, 1 time, yes, no, abstain for Lajos, for the other Luis. You are ready. Karin. Ready. Tony Canales, the soul of the party of ISCHE. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to them, and we hope we will soon have new ISCHE members. The Berlin office will let us know. Hope you are being able to vote. Now we have a second vote online, and we put them together, so you should have received another doodle. They are out until 4:30, so if you can, well, but we can hear. We have, as you saw in the conference package, a new standing working group presented by Gianfranco Bandini, Jacques Braster, Xiska Comas-Ruby, Karin Priam, and Sean Roberts. We have had already several panels and also a tertulia on public history. I don't know if any one of you want to say a very short remark. If not, we can proceed. Does anybody have a question? I think this is a great line of research and of action for historians of education, and I hope this standing working group will help us also to reflect on our public engagement. So again, you should have received the vote. Okay. Yeah, that's okay. So I don't know if Jill Vinandi is here. Yeah, wonderful. So we are very pleased to announce the winner of the First Book Award 2023. As I said, this was a tough competition. We received 13 books, and the committee was very pleased to select your diploma. I will read very briefly the laudatio. The book is called Documents the Reception of the Preeminent Austrian School Reformer Johann Ignaz Felbiger and His Pedagogical Thought in European Histories of Education in the 19th Century. Her work demonstrates how national and religious ideological preferences have propelled the construction of fundamental biases in educational historiography. The committee deeply values the excellence and thoroughness of Vinandi's historical research and its international focus and scope, which includes sources from Southern, Central, and Eastern Europe, but also discusses its repercussions in North America. The work deploys an innovative and rigorous thinking grounded over remarkable methodological and historiographical awareness. We are sure that this will be a reference book for those interested in the history of teacher education and educational historiography, as well as for those interested in comparative histories of education. So, Jill, please come to the fore. We have a diploma, and we are very happy to grant you this award.
So, dear jury, dear audience, and dear colleagues, thank you. I'm a bit speechless, and I feel very blessed to be awarded with this year's ISCHE's First Book Award. And the ones among you who know me might know that I'm not such a big speaker. However, I would like to take this opportunity to thank every single person who supported and encouraged me throughout the years, so from 2016 to 2020. The many discussions, formal and informal exchanges, presentations, and countless comments have pushed the project further and further. Without this input and support, this book would never have come about, and I would not stand here today. I would like to particularly highlight the work and support of Daniel Tröler, Mette Buchart, and Simonetta Polenghi, but also many others of you, dear colleagues, for responding to my emails, for reading my work and commenting on my articles and presentations. Special thanks go also to Sabine Reh and her team at the BBF in Berlin for having allowed me to dive into a large number of 19th century Geschichten der Pädagogik, histories of education, and also to the French colleagues at Lyon and Strasbourg libraries for giving me access to the French sources. More so, I also have to thank Bill Piner as the editor for having given me the chance to publish my research in this series. To conclude, last but not least, I want to thank ISCHE for this special award, and this is an award that should motivate each one of us young researchers to continue putting our hearts and souls into our work. And I want to dedicate this award to all of my fellow young researchers. Thank you.
Hannah, please silence your microphone. Okay, so we move very quickly to the second award, and Lucila is there, I think. Maybe now we have to open this. I don't know, Lucila, if you want to, if you are there, if you can talk. But the committee decided to award the Early Career Conference Paper Award 2022 to Lucila da Silva from the Universidad Nacional del Comahue, Argentina, and the National Research Council for her paper entitled Primary School. Oh, the problem is you cannot read. Let's see. Yes, there we will be able to see Lucila, maybe. I will figure it out. But first I will briefly read the laudatio. So the paper, her paper is on primary school bathrooms as hybrid technologies. The paper deals with a rather new topic, which has reserved little attention insofar. Through a well-written narrative and navigating a scattered and full of lacuna archive, the author manages to convincingly reconstruct how and why the school lavatories changed in the city of Buenos Aires between 1880 and 1930. Its research questions bring together the gender dimension of schooling, the shifting boundaries between public and intimate behavior, pedagogical debates on discipline and authority, and engineering and architectural development. The committee particularly appreciated the interdisciplinary approach taken by this paper and the accuracy of the reconstruction of the debates and challenges faced by school sanitation policies in that period. The paper is a fine example of how an ISCHE can approach an original topic that requires much archival work and much effort in combining different sources, and also write a work that one reads with pleasure. Many thanks, Lucila. We will send you the diploma. I don't know, big... So the conversation, reflection, on our annual conferences. I hope you read the report. There's much more in there, and you know that for many years ISCHE was just a conference, no more, no less than that. It was only, I think, in 2015, or actually in 2013, that the decision was made to create an association set up on the model of a charity based on German law, which has its physical office and personnel in Berlin. The annual conferences have always been central spaces for our community, and they have created and nurtured scholarly networks and new forms of knowledge production that have been very valuable. ISCHE's conferences, and I think both Luis and Lajos stressed that, were never part of the academic conference machine. We have always tried to make room for real connections and experiments in sharing scholarly work, collective thinking, intergenerational dialogue, and new historiographic programs. We have tried to keep fees low. As you saw this year, this might not necessarily be sustainable as we would like it to be. We have promoted the inclusion of ECRs and scholars from low-income countries through reduced dues. Several of us have grown as scholars within these networks, made possible by the collegiality, friendship, and generosity of lots of colleagues. With the COVID-19 pandemic, we have been pushed to experiment with the format of our conferences and with our fee structure. There have been health concerns, but also decreased budgets in our academic institutions and households, and we also have environmental concerns about the carbon footprint of our travels. All this is pushing us to try new organizational forms. At the same time, institutionally and personally, we are all juggling with old and new questions that the pandemic has brought to the fore about which lives we want to live and in which world we want to live, which kind of experiences do we expect from the conference. We were already discussing this before the pandemic. We are already trying to think about hybrid conferences. However, and we are looking at other associations that are having the same conversation, but the way forward is not clear yet, and these pandemic years have not made it any easier. While online conferences provide more access to some groups, they might become an obstacle for others. The co-presence of bodies in a shared time space seems to produce a different engagement, and we see that 75% of us still choose and can afford to travel, of course. And it has to do with because maybe it generates other echoes, other resonances, or because when we are together, we are more exposed and vulnerable in a physical setting that obliges us to suspend ourselves from other callings and duties and demand. But yet, as historians of education, we know that the occurrence of a meaningful encounter is never guaranteed, neither virtually nor when we're physically present, and that these kind of encounters have a visible and a hidden cost for several colleagues. We also have learned during the pandemic that there can be significant connections and co-presence in virtual settings if the right conditions are provided. Among the questions that the ISCHE has been pondering, there are some that stand out. Should we move to a fully online conference? Should we alternate between online and on-site conference? Should we move to biannual conferences or stay with annual meetings in whatever format we choose? Should we organize fully hybrid conferences, even if this would scale up the cost significantly? We need to discuss costs and options in ways that protect and care our achievements as a community. So there are economic, cultural, and scholarly dimensions to consider before committing to any decision, to a definite path. One of the issues we would like to start considering in this General Assembly is how to carry on with our conferences in ways that are sustainable for the planet and inclusive for all our members, but also affordable for the local organizing committees and members alike, as well as protective of the attention and the care that scholarly knowledge deserves and needs, I would say. All these issues will never be in a perfect balance, but we need to discuss which ones are more important for us in these coming years and until further notice. We would like to hear your initial thoughts, and we will soon organize a survey to gather opinion and decide a way forward. As with the language policy, we should not rush to a decision, but give us time and pause to consider all dimensions and, if necessary, start experimenting with some of the options. These are the options we are considering in the survey. You can take note and maybe also give us advice on them. We will take time to process everybody's thoughts before even launching the survey. And certainly, this decision won't be taken before 2026 or 2027, but we think we need to plan this ahead and very carefully. So you can see here, we're trying to discuss first, do we want to continue with the annual conferences? Then in relation to the modality, and of course, these have to be combined, no? But we try to include in the second, okay, always hybrid, always bimodal, always fully online, always fully on-site, 1 year online, 1 year bimodal, 1 year online, 1 year on-site, and also leave a big space for comments and advice on how to move forward. We recognize this is an issue, and it has become clear this year, for example, with the budget, that we need to think about how to make the conferences sustainable for everybody, no? But also, I say this is not only, not mainly, I would say, a budget dimension. No, it's many more other things that are at stake. So I don't know if there are initial comments. I know that this format is not necessarily the best one to start a conversation, but at least to present some ideas. This was our intention as ISCHE, to leave it open. Maybe we don't need to say anything now. We can continue during the dinner, during the coffee break, etc. But try to start thinking again. You will soon see we have our next conference already planned. We are now thinking we have open conversations to hold our conference in France in 2025 and Greece, 2026. So we might have 3 years ahead, which is also very good. We are, in that respect, going back to pre-pandemic to be able to foresee some years ahead, and so maybe 2027 start a new format or experiment in the middle with some formats. Before the pandemic, we had a request by the German Association to move to biannual conferences. So it was not before the pandemic, it was 2 years ago maybe. But there is this conversation of, because of climate change, no? We need to travel less, and so this is something we also need to consider. No? Staying the same is not neutral at any rate, and I think there is a conversation we need to have. Again, it's urgent but not immediate. So we can't stay like this for a couple of years, but I think there are things we need to think more deeply, in my opinion, in the ISCHE opinion, I think, no? So, any other comments? But if there is interest, please write us, and we can organize an online meeting in September, October, with time, and just organize ourselves to talk. Yep. Okay, so we move now to ISCHE 45 in Natal. So we'll now see the video they prepared. Here.
The city of Natal, located in northeastern Brazil, is bidding to host the 45th edition of the International Standing Conference for the History of Education, with the support of the Brazilian Society for the History of Education. Natal is known as the City of the Sun, and it's a charming tourist destination full of culture and natural beauty. Our event will be held at the Federal University of Rio Grande do Norte, a renowned higher education institution with academic excellence and modern infrastructure, and it will address the theme, the humanity, diversity, and stories of education. In this regard, we invite the community of historians of education to reflect on human diversity in its various dimensions, such as generation, gender, social class, and racial ethnic origin, enabling the discussion of social, religious, cultural, and educational dynamics that are multiple, plural, and polyphonic. Natal has a complete infrastructure to host ISCHE, and it contains state-of-the-art conference centers, comfortable hotels, and easy access to public transportation. We count on the support of a vibrant and engaged academic community, which is eager to welcome ISCHE and its participants. In addition to the event, not only the participants will get to know our rich history, but they will also be able to enjoy the cultural and touristic wonders of Natal, such as our stunning beaches and regional cuisine. It will certainly be a pleasure to welcome you to the 45th edition of ISCHE in Natal, Brazil, to discuss about the humanity, diversity, and stories of education.
Many thanks. We will hold our conference back to the Brazilian Society of History of Education. The Brazilian Society of History of Education has over 1,000 members. Their conferences are in the thousands, so it will be certainly be very, very interesting to communicate and mingle with this vibrant community. We are very grateful to the Brazilian colleagues for hosting us, and I said before, we also expect it to be a possibility to open up to African colleagues, to Latin American colleagues, and to enrich ISCHE's life. So I think here we are done with the items in our agenda. Thank you very much, Cynthia. As I said before, we have open conversations for the next conference 2025 and 2026, and if there are any additional recommendations for membership, this is the time, even if we are already on the slot of the last panels. Does anybody have any additional recommendation that they want to say now? No? Thank you very much for holding on with us. I haven't got the results, but I hope, yeah, you do? Do you want to read them or share them? Okay. Email. Okay, yes.
We have 3 times go.
Okay, three times go. So everything was approved. Okay. Standing working group. Yes. Clear majority, 96% approved. New results for Luis and Lajos, 88% approval. Abstentions, yes, we have new results. I don't have the results for Lisa.
Clear majority.
Clear majority. Okay, so we are safe with the German authorities. We hope that this time it will do. Many thanks and congratulations for both Luises. We welcome you in the ISCHE. We start tomorrow, so stay here. And thank you very much for those of you who stayed until the very end, and see you next year, or in the middle. We'll have some in-between meetings. Thank you very, very much for your support again.